Hi there everyone, it's Babs here. It's Friday, it's 1 o'clock, which means it is time for our weekly live stream session. This week we're going to be covering finding your niche, niching down, why it's important, what it means, and hopefully we're going to be having some interaction with viewers, and then we'll be able to actually give you some real live examples of how you can actually find your particular niche. It's not always as simple as people think, and then again it's not always as complex as some people try to make it. So that's what we're going to be covering today. Before we get into all that, please, if there is anybody who is having difficulties hearing me, if I'm going digitized, let me know in the comments. And absolutely today I'm really looking for lots and lots of interaction. So I'm looking for lots of questions so that I can answer them for you. But before we get started on that, if you could let me know where you are in the world and what your time is, your local time if you're watching this live. If you're watching this on a replay, that's not going to be quite so helpful to people. But if you could let me know what your time frame is and where you are based in the world, on the planet, that would be fabulously useful as well. Of course, if you're watching this on replay, use the hashtag replay, because that's always really useful to me as well, to see how many people are picking it up live versus how many people are watching later on. What I've started doing now is putting a copy of the live stream onto the Yarn Academy YouTube channel and blogging it also on the Yarn Academy website. So that's going to have extra links and some extra information for whatever we're talking about today. So if anybody asks for any links or information, then I can put those in the blog post. And that's because Facebook has a habit of just deleting stuff when you're not necessarily wanting it to. So please let me know if you've got any questions, and if you have, use the hashtag Q for Babs, letter Q, number 4 Babs, B-A-B-S, and I will catch up on all of those after the live stream. And I'll also run through and look for any questions that you have around your niche, finding a niche, what is a niche, why do I need one? If I haven't covered that, then I'll go through and make sure that I answer all the questions afterwards. So we've got Karen and Petra with us here already, so hi there guys. And what I'm going to do is start talking about what is a niche. And I'm going to start this off with the phrase, you can't please all the people all the time, which basically sums up a niche. Not in a very clear way, but that is what it does. Because rather than trying to market to everybody all the time, you will be identifying a smaller group. Hi there, Petra. You'll be identifying a smaller group of customers that you would then market to. So for example, I have many years of business experience and I provide business coaching through Yarn Academy, but I could provide business coaching to anybody and everybody who runs a small business, or indeed a medium-sized or larger business. I, however, have chosen, because I love yarn, I love colour, and I love working with people who have that excitement, enthusiasm for their business, to work with yarnpreneurs or those who are running yarn-based businesses. Karen says there's a lot of buffering this morning. Is anyone else having that problem, or is it just Karen? If you could let us know, that would be great. So with me, for particular, I've niched down to yarn businesses, businesses that want to grow, and businesses that are looking to learn how to do things slightly differently. And so that is my niche. However, obviously that's slightly different to you guys who are designing and dyeing and teaching, potentially, writing patterns for magazines or writing patterns for people to consume individually. There are all sorts of different ways that you could niche down. Some people choose to work with a particular yarn. Some people just love using that really fine crochet yarn, and so they create all their crochet patterns for this really fine yarn. They can use multiple colorways, all sorts of different technical stitches, but it's always with that particular yarn. There are others who work exclusively with socks. There are others who work exclusively with shawls. Some people work exclusively with a particular stitch, so brioche. You get brioche specialists, and their creations are stunning. Petra, had some trouble at first, turned the stream off, reloaded the page, restarted, and it's now okay. So hopefully that, oh, I can't even see the comment properly. Hopefully that means that everyone else will be okay to see this later. If not, I'll re-record it and upload it as a separate item. But fingers crossed you'll be able to continue on. If you're not, send me some thumbs down or shocked faces or crying faces or something so that I can see those rather than comments. Comments seem to come through very slowly on Facebook. So where you have it could be that you work with just hats. It could be that you work with just a particular stitch. It could be that you work with a particular technique. It could be that you only work with advanced knitters or crocheters. It could be that you only work with magazines and you never self-publish a pattern at all. There's all sorts of different ways that you can find a niche, and then you get a lot of people who work in the fantasy realm. So Karen, this one probably sounds a bit familiar to you. So there is always a fantasy theme to the designs and the items that are created, and I love seeing when people are doing this. And finding their actual niche. I've got some interviews coming up next week with 3 yarn businesses who have all got a very different approach to, oh, I'm going to sneeze, to their niche selection. And one of them, for example, works purely with eco-friendly products. So either the designs that they make are for reusable eco products, or they only use environmentally friendly non-plastic yarns. So that's an interview that I'm really looking forward to doing next week. So there'll be a whole host of niche-related podcasts and interviews and other posts coming out next week. Probably not the podcast, to be fair. That might be later on in the series of bits and pieces, but there'll be a lot of new content next week all around finding your niche. So for anybody that is here, do you have any questions for me about how to identify a niche, or indeed do you have a niche identified? So if you could just let me know in the comments, do you even consider that you have a niche yet? And this is where I realised that my drink is the other side of the room, so I can't get that. Now, one of the comments that I see a lot are from people who are saying that they don't know how to create their niche or how to define a niche. And I realise that I'm saying that word a huge amount in this particular live stream, so I apologise if it sounds very silly that I keep repeating the word niche. But basically that means a subset of your market. So there's a whole variety of bonuses to defining a subgroup of people that you want to be working with. It means that you can save money on your marketing budget. If you want to spend money advertising, you can advertise to smaller and smaller groups, which means that you are more likely to get fans more quickly because they love what you do already. So if you create Doctor Who inspired patterns and you sell to Doctor Who fanatics, then they are going to latch onto your designs and love your work really, really easily. Whereas if you are trying to sell Doctor Who inspired patterns to the world at large, whilst Doctor Who is very popular, it absolutely is not going to be an easy sell to the rest of the planet who don't like sci-fi and aren't interested in UK TV. So that makes it much, much harder. Whereas if you're trying to sell your Doctor Who inspired stuff to a Doctor Who fan base, then that's going to be a piece of cake to make that sale. You can also do far more useful research if you've created a group that is filled with people who are all part of your niche. If you've done your marketing properly, then you'll be able to ask them for feedback. What do they want to know? What do they want to see? What patterns are they going to be interested in? What colourways inspire them? Again, with the Doctor Who theme, is there a particular episode that they love? Are there characters that they enjoy? Are there themes through the Doctor Who series that they would like to see replicated in some form of yarn craft? Whether that be colourways that are inspired, or whether that is phrases. Bad Wolf back from the relaunch. and so on and so forth. And the fact that we've got a female doctor coming is very exciting, because the possibilities of using Doctor Who as inspiration will just skyrocket. I think there's going to be a huge amount of opportunity for inspiration coming up come October. I'm so excited, it's so nearly here. But then, I'm a complete sci-fi geek, and I love all that. So let's see what some of these comments are, as people have been putting them up whilst I've been mentioning some examples. So Petra, I can't see the comments properly here, which is rather irritating. I create hand-dyed natural yarns and well-written patterns for high-quality yarns, and that's your niche. Hand-dyed natural yarns and well-written patterns for high-quality yarns. Can I just ask you, Petra, what makes a pattern work with a high-quality yarn as against a low-quality yarn? And I know I'm being really picky here, but I don't actually understand how a pattern will work with a level of yarn quality. So if you could just explain that to me, that would be really cool. Because if I'm asking that question, there will be other people who are asking that question as well. And I understand that you create the most amazing hand-dyed yarns. They are absolutely awesome. But I'm not quite sure how a pattern would work with a higher quality yarn rather than a lower quality yarn. So that just seems a little bit unusual as something to say for your niche. Let's see, what else do we have? Karen, wait, there are people who don't love the Doctor? Apparently so, especially now that he's moving into a she. Apparently that's split the audience. I'm not quite sure why that would be contentious at all, but these days apparently it is. No, Petra, I don't believe that people don't love the Doctor. Fair enough. Okay, I can only see part of your comments, Petra, which is really, really irritating to me, but I'll come back and look at that in another format if possible after the live stream. They're usually expensive yarns, so people want to make the best of them. So I also want the patterns too, and then the comment disappears. Oh, that's really frustrating. Let's see if I can find that comment somewhere else. Please bear with me a minute while I open up a laptop, which hopefully isn't going to make bingly bongly noises in the background. It probably will, so I apologise in advance. Oh, I'm all snuffly. I had a very late night last night. We were watching the it's not Broadway, West End, the West End Aladdin musical show, which was fabulous, I have to say, and I absolutely fell in love with Genie. He's absolutely brilliant. But I am feeling a little bit tired this morning because I didn't get to bed until 1 o'clock, and then I got up again at 5:30 this morning. So, and just a little bit slow off the mark today as compared to normal. Oh, thank you, Petra. They're usually expensive, so people want to make the best of them. So I also want the patterns to really show them off. I think rather than talking about the patterns being made for expensive or quality yarn, it might be better worded to think about the fact that the patterns really display the yarn to their best potential. I'm not saying that's the wording you should use, but that kind of wording I think would be less off-putting for people who don't have access to high quality yarns. Whilst of course we all would love to work with the really expensive, gorgeous, beautiful yarns, not everybody can do that. Not everyone can afford to do that. So if you're saying that your patterns are only written to be used with high quality yarns, you're actually alienating quite a large chunk of your audience. Now, if you don't care because you want to niche to an audience that has a lot of money to burn, that's fine. But it just seems a little bit of a... It doesn't seem the most positive way to explain what you're trying to say. I think that's maybe what I'm trying to explain here. So if you use the fact that you really want to show off the yarns, your patterns are written to really show off the yarn, then I think that's better. Yes, and as so that you don't have wastage. So if you buy a skein of yarn, you use a skein of yarn. If you buy 100 grams, you use 95 grams. so that you've got a little bit of wiggle room and you're not playing yarn chicken, but you're using a good quantity of the yarn that you've bought, and it really shows off the yarn to its best ability. So yes, you don't need to repeat the natural dyed yarns again, but definitely if you're talking about the fact that you're creating beautiful items that showcase the yarn, whether it's high or high value or low value, they're showcasing the yarn. That's awesome. So that might be a phrase that you want to think about to rework your niche, if that is making any sense for you, Petra. Let me know. Karen, allow the beauty of the yarn to shine. Yes, absolutely. It's that kind of thing that we're looking at. So it's just about finding the right words to describe it in a far more positive way. Excellent. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Thanks for putting it into better words. That's the beauty of a live stream. If you actually show up to a live stream, we can help you. We can come up with phrases. We can answer questions. We can sort of brainstorm, throw things around, and actually talk about it right now to try and help you as best we can. Now, I'm just going to see if I can find this live stream on my laptop off to the side and turn the sound off before it starts making all sorts of odd noises. Let me see. Okay. No, I don't want to edit it. I just want to look at the stuff. And it's going really slowly, so that's not helping me. I seem to be seeing enough comments for now, though. So if I need to find more comments, I will let you know. Excellent. Now I can actually see all the comments. So hi there, Stephanie, and hi, Paula. It's good to see some other people here. Please let me know if you've got any questions regarding the niche, defining your niche if you have a niche, so that we can maybe use some examples to give inspiration to other people. Or if you're struggling to define your niche, then we can look at ways that we could potentially help you during the live stream, which is always really exciting when we can manage to do that. So firstly, for anybody who has joined us a bit later, if you could let me know what you believe your niche to be, or if you don't have one, is it something that you're actually looking to define? So please let me know that, and we'll see if there's anything else. Karen, I don't know whether you've shared what your niche is. I can't see a comment from you, Karen, regarding your niche, and I would have thought that you have a niche. Is that something you've considered, or is that not? Is it something that's just sort of gone past you and you've created a niche without realising it? Which is quite a strange thing to say, but it does happen. I don't know whether this just means that Facebook has turned off commenting, or it's all gone very quiet. I didn't. I missed that request. Yes, that's why Petra replied and told me what her niche was. I was asking everybody to let me know if you thought you had a niche, if it was something that you're struggling with. So we can start off. Do you have a niche? Yes or no? If you just drop a yes or no to that answer, that's nice and simple. We don't have to wait for long, complicated answers. And then if you do have a niche, please share with us what you believe your niche to be. Which would be really cool. And also whether you fell into that niche by mistake, or whether it was something that you made a deliberate decision around. My niche is creating clear, easy to follow patterns inspired by sci-fi, fantasy and nature. Oh, you see, I love sci-fi, fantasy and nature. And clear and easy to follow patterns. I like that definition. That is really cool. Do you know who your customer is yet? Because that's your niche, but you'll then need, the next step after finding a niche is to then look at who fulfills that niche. So maybe next week we can talk about creating customer avatars, which always seems terrifying and until you actually get that nailed, and then you think, that's actually really quite easy. Why didn't I do that sooner? Paula, mine used to be knit felt items only. Don't know if I have one again yet. I have to say, Paula, having looked through some of the patterns that you're producing, I would say that you get a huge amount of inspiration from the ocean and the nature that is close to the ocean. So that might be something that you are using for your niche without even realising it. So let me know if you think that might be something that is potentially your niche. Karen, mine was definitely on purpose. Stephanie, I think my comments aren't going through. I don't see any comments from you, Stephanie, at all. Please try again. Obviously, this one has made it through. So give it another go. Maybe just shorter comments to see if that's working first. But the comments are definitely coming through now. So please keep giving that a go. Keep trying. Okay. Paula, did that make sense to you, what I was saying about the inspiration? I'm not sure if you've got any more projects coming up that I haven't seen that aren't sort of oceany, beachy, nature related, but that certainly seems to be something that your recent patterns have had in common. Excellent, Paula. My tagline is inspiration from nature, creativity from the heart. Oh, I love that. I really love that. So yes, your niche is definitely there, whether you've defined it or not. I think you definitely have a niche. So that is something that you can definitely keep pulling on when you're writing your copy, when you're writing your promotional materials, when you're writing your newsletters. That's when you can start to make sure that you are feeding from your niche language. So again, we can talk about that a little bit more detail over the coming weeks. Karen, my customer is a new or intermediate knitter who is adventurous and loves leaning on new techniques. That's cool. But yeah, I like that. That's nailing it down, narrowing it down is really, really important. How do I market that? Video tutorials, a free pattern. How do you market what, Stephanie? Sorry, I'm not quite sure. I can't see what it is that you're trying to market. I don't know how people would know what I do. Well, this is where you come to just making sure that your message is clear, and that when you sorry, Karen is just commented that she's sticking her tongue out at me. Well, that's just lovely. You type it wrong, I get the abuse. Thank you so much. Oh dear. So Stephanie, back to your question. When you are marketing yourself and your work and your patterns, there's a whole host of videos around marketing. Karen, could you please put a link to all of the marketing, to the marketing category on Yarn Academy, so that Stephanie can have a look back through some of the older marketing posts. There's all sorts of stuff on there about how to market, where to market, and all that kind of stuff. So that would probably be really useful. But basically, every time that you're talking about what you're doing, whether that's with a free pattern, whether that's through a video tutorial on YouTube, whether that's through a blog post, whether that's through your Instagram, if you are using the language that relates to your niche. So we'll go back to the Doctor Who example. If you're talking about Doctor Who, you could be talking about an upcoming episode and link that back to inspiration. You can be talking about a product and you can use quotes from Doctor Who, so you can have timey-wimey or wibbly-wobbly, and so it's things like that where you make sure that you're using language that appeals to your target audience, your niche audience, in your product descriptions, in your answers, on your Instagram feed. Just, you can turn them into a joke. You can just talk about whatever it is that relates to that particular niche every time you're communicating with your audience, because that becomes your voice and it becomes very natural, and then it's very real to you. And again, Stephanie, have you told us what your niche is? I don't think I've actually seen that comment. So if you could let us know what your niche is, then maybe I can come up with some specific phrases or terms that might work more for your niche. Paul has given us a thumbs up, so that's good to know. It's all starting to make a bit of sense. I'm going to ignore Karen's comment. And yes, video tutorials are always popular. Petra, I think you should talk about it everywhere. In groups, on your designer page, on your blog, on your product page. Exactly. Everywhere that you communicate with other people. Especially if you're in a sort of tutorial mode, if you're teaching people new techniques, if you're teaching people how to do stuff, then you definitely need to be focusing your answers in a tutorial fashion. So find beginner groups and answer questions. Don't promote yourself and say, oh, I've got a course on XYZ. But answer questions that beginners are posting and show that you have expertise in that area. If you are teaching people things, then you need to show that you've got experience answering questions, so that you then become a point of reference. So when somebody has a question, if you've done a lot of brioche answers, then they'll come back and they'll say, oh, such and such has a problem with brioche. Go talk to Stephanie. She'll give you the answer that you're looking for. So that's the kind of thing that you need to be doing if you're looking at teaching people new techniques, if you're looking at helping beginners grow. So it's all about everywhere that you interact with other people, using the language that promotes what you're trying to do as part of that communication. Speaking of marketing, WordPress blog classes coming soon. Yes, they absolutely are, Paula. We've got a new version of the website being launched today. It will probably be later today, but it will be today, to make everything simpler for people to access their courses online, so that you can see which courses are available, and there are a lot more courses coming up. As Karen has just said, there are so many new courses coming soon. Karen's been working on them all with me in the background. So she knows that there's a lot coming up, and we've now got the link to the marketing blog posts. So if anybody wants to take a peek through some of those older ones, then that is fabulous. Okay, let's see. What is the time? Wow, I've been talking for half an hour. That is a long one. So I will stop for now. If you have any specific questions, please use the hashtag Q for Babs, as always, and I will upload a copy of this onto YouTube so that it is safe should Facebook decide to remove it from the event. Events don't always last, but they seem to be working very nicely for letting people know that this live stream is happening. So until next time, I will say bye-bye and have a good weekend, everyone. See ya.